Recording started. There you go. So good evening. Welcome, everybody. This is another job ready session tonight. It is obviously with Pathway CTM. We've been hosting them all the way through. We're going to find out soon if some of you guys have attended before, if this is your first session. Now, tonight's session is with Leonardo. We're going to find out more about them, who they are, and we're going to meet some panelists from the company as well. It's about innovating in business. Like I was saying a minute ago, we've done so many job ready sessions already. We've covered a lot of topics from the beginning about how to write a CV, how to prep for an interview, how to prep for an assessment center. Now we're starting to go into what is the benefit of joining certain companies, certain schemes, and certain areas. And now we're meeting people that are involved in those companies, young people like yourselves, that have taken the step to move in, either to do an apprenticeship, a degree apprenticeship, could even be a graduate role. But what are they finding out? What is their role in that business? What effect are they having? Okay, so you're starting to see the value of these schemes that are available and what people do. Okay, so we have got started. We always start at 5 p.m, but I give it a minute or two because I know that people are joining in the background. So you're probably wondering, well, who are you then if you're not Leonardo? Well, my name's Max. My real name's Massimiliano. I work for Pathway CTM and I'm an outreach manager. And what that means is that I go into schools virtually and I run sessions like the job ready ones, but I do them in schools as well. I also provide mentorship, as I was explaining a minute ago. If you want to apply for a job and you don't know what the interview is going to be like, you come to me and we can prep you for the interview. We can look at your CV and we can get you set and ready. You might not even know what to do and I can point you in the right direction. Okay, that's my job. That's what I do for Pathway CTM. And I get to work with employers like tonight's employer, like Leonardo, and other companies as well, and find out about what their opportunities are and how to get into those companies so I can relay it back to students. But tonight, to communicate, we've got the Q&A box, we've got the chat box, okay? The chat box is there. We might ask you ad hoc questions as we go along. Put your answers in the chat box. If you've got a specific question during the session, put it in the Q&A box. It might not be relevant to answer it at the moment that you ask it, but we will get to it. The reason why I say do that is because we don't want to wait till the end for all the Q&A, because by the time you get to that point, you might have forgotten what your question was. Put it in the Q&A box and it will sit there. And when we're ready to answer it, we'll answer it. We may be able to answer it between slides. And the panelists here are going to be looking at those questions as well, and potentially they might be answering some of them straight off anyway. You can raise your hand if you want and come off microphone, but we do find that sometimes that causes a few more issues than it is great, but we can try it if you want, just sometimes because of feedback and noise. Okay, so I'm going to launch a poll. You guys answer those questions, and whilst you guys answer those questions, we are going to meet the panelists from Leonardo. But let me launch the poll first, and I'll show you what the questions are. So let's have a look. So what's your main reason for joining today? Is it to network with the employers? Is it to understand the industry a bit more? Is it to hear about what roles are available, if there are any available now or in the future? Or is it to have fun? Have you joined a Pathway CTM session before? Yes or no? Or you're not sure? Are you looking for a role this year? Again, yes, no, not sure. Which of the following applies to you? Have you left school or college more than 3 years ago? Have you left school or college within the last 3 years? Are you a year 13, year 12, year 11, year 10 student? Are you a teacher or advisor, or are you other? And then what region are you from? I'm not going to go through all the regions. You know what the regions are and you'll know which one you're from. So let us know that information. Whilst you guys are doing those polls, we're going to meet people from Leonardo. Quick introductions, because we are going to meet them more in depth a little bit later on. But we're going to start with Jess. So good evening, Jess. Welcome. How are you? And who are you?
Hiya. Very well, thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name is James. I'm a second year business graduate on the procurement.
I'm going to ask you to pause for a second there, Jess, because your connection has just gone a little bit funny. And I might have to get you to introduce yourself again. Just have a look at your connection. However, we're going to move on to Olivia. Olivia, welcome. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Certainly can.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. My name's Olivia Grippler. I am a project management graduate at Leonardo Helicopters in Yeovil.
Fantastic. Okay. Ben, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. So my name is Ben Unwin. I'm a fourth year craft mechanical apprentice for Leonardo.
Fantastic. And then the last person, last but not least, Morgan.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Certainly can.
Great. I'm a first year business admin apprentice, currently working with Leonardo on the Yeovil site.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Okay. And like we said, we're going to meet them a little bit more. Now, Jess, yours was just a little bit fuzzy. Can we try again? Go for it.
Can you hear me okay?
Go for it and let's see. Now your one is frozen just slightly, just slightly. What I might,
I feel like it'll be a bit, okay.
I was going to say, what I might suggest is if you turn your video off and then try and speak, but we'll get you sorted. Well, anyway, okay, so let's have a look at the polls. Give it a few seconds. What have we got? Almost everybody has answered. I'll give you 10 more seconds to get the rest of those answers in. Let's have a look. And then we're going to share the results. Okay. Few more seconds for a few more answers. Right. Your time is up. Let's share those results. So, main reason for joining today's session is to understand the industry a bit more. 67% have said to understand the industry a bit more. So that's the top score. Okay. 24% is to hear about what roles are available. So we can see about that as well. And I believe that we might have somebody in the background observing who has got information about that, but they might come in at the end. Have you joined a Pathway CTM session before? 57% have said no, 43% said yes. Fantastic, brilliant. So we've got people coming back. And I'm hoping that those new people will come to more sessions and you'll find value in this as well. Go back and check the Job Ready recordings from before as well, see what you find. Are you looking for a role this year? 81% have said no, 19% are not sure. Okay, that's good, because what that means is that we've got lots of students who are looking to the future. They're starting to plan their future and think about their options. Perfect. Which of the following applies to you? Year 12 is the highest. So we've got 62% year 12, 14% year 13, and then 10% each for year 11 and year 10. Fantastic. And then which region are you from? We've got Northeast, it's 5%, Midlands is 5%, Southwest is 5%, but we've got 52% London and 24% Southeast. Fantastic. And then 10% is other. Brilliant. Okay. That's good. Good to see those results. Now, if you bear with me 1 second, let me have a look and see. Jess, are you back with us?
I think so.
You are. That is perfect.
Oh.
That is fantastic. So should we try again? Give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. Let me just put my video on so you can see who I am.
Oh.
Hello. So again, my name is Jess Chamberlain. I'm a second year business graduate on the procurement and supply chain scheme at Leonardo. So been with the company about a year and a half, nearly 2 years now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for persevering as well, and thank you for thinking outside the box and getting on the mobile. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Olivia now. So Olivia, welcome back. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, thanks very much, Max. I really appreciate it. So yeah, so I'm just going to kick off and talk you through some of the great stuff that we've got this evening. So we're here to talk to you about Leonardo, which is a really interesting and diverse company. But first off, before we talk too much about the specifics, we've got a little video to show you all.
Fantastic. You know, I've been waiting for this video. Let's go.
In the UK, Leonardo has over 100 years of history. Today, we are at the leading edge of advanced manufacturing. With 7,000 highly skilled employees, generating revenues of £2.3 billion, including £1.3 billion of exports. Supporting 1,500 UK SMEs. We invest £200 million in research and development to keep the UK at the forefront of advanced technology and manufacturing. We are building skills for the future. As one of the largest employers of engineering apprentices and graduates in the UK. We have 415 people on award-winning training programs. We explore new ideas and turn them into real solutions. We are Leonardo.
Thanks so much for that, Max. I think that hopefully that came across to everyone very well. I just want to pause there for a second and see if anyone would like to ask any questions about what they heard in the video before we move on. Perfect. Okay, so Leonardo is a huge international organization. So we're going to break it down for you bit by bit and talk to you about the different areas of Leonardo, what they do, and then we're going to talk to you about our very small role in it and what we've been able to do over our time on the various training schemes that we're on. So first of all, the Leonardo mission is to be the international aerospace defense and security company that best enables its customers' success by thinking creatively and working with passion. And I think the word to pick out there is with passion. I think everybody that works at Leonardo has a real passion and pride in their role and their contribution to the wider aerospace industry. And the purpose, our purpose as an organization, is to contribute to the world's progress and by safety, delivering meaningful and innovative technological solutions. So by that, I think what we mean is by looking at what the struggles that are happening in the world right now and what can we do to develop the best technology to tackle them. If you want to go on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, Leonardo is a huge and diverse organization. Leonardo itself is based in Italy, and we'll talk a bit about that a little bit more later. But it looks at different areas. So it talks about aerospace, defense, and security. So aerospace is anything sort of that flies, basically. So that's your helicopters and your fixed wing. So that's, the aeroplanes that you go on holiday on. Defense and electronics is where you see our cyber units come in. So a lot of you may hear a lot about cyber, and this electronics division looks at some really interesting defense techniques through cyber that are employed by lots of different governments around the world. We also have a space division, which is really interesting, and to be honest, I don't know a huge amount about. And then, we have within that we have lots of different areas and lots of different things we look at. If we have a look at the next one.
The other thing I just want to point out quickly again to students, I say this all the time, every time we do a session, don't just look at a company's name and the main thing they do, look further into it, because you'll find that they do a lot more than you realize. And this is what we're starting to see. And I think we're going to be meeting these guys that work in slightly different areas as well. So keep that mind open, what else goes on in these companies. Fantastic. Sorry, Livia, carry on.
No, of course. And I think it's a really important point to bring up, Max, because when you apply for a job, when you look at a company, you may think about what they're most known for, but actually within one organization, they are fully responsible for everything that happens in that organization. So you may be able to find a niche that you didn't even know existed within one organization. Especially for the helicopters division, we provide a service from all the way from design through production to delivery. So whatever you're interested in, there's absolutely an area for you. So Leonardo is one of the top 10 global defense and aerospace companies, and we do this in partnership with some other organizations, such as Airbus and BAE or Thales that you might have heard of, but we also we do that across lots of different areas. So this is another example. So aerostructures is another big one, cybersecurity and electronics are other areas that we work in, and they are also based all over the UK and worldwide. If we move on to the next one. And I think I'll pass over to Morgan here.
Okay, hello everybody. So this chart here is really just to give you a grasp, an idea of our international presence and how big of an organization we really are. So just going over the couple points that you can see there, we have over 9,000 global suppliers, so a massive supplier base. We have over 150 countries that use our products, systems, and services. So again, it's a massive global presence. We're in 4 domestic markets, and we have over 50,000 in global workforce. And as you can see in all the dots there, in each different country and an area of where our presence is held, and specifically where you can find us around the world. Yeah, just a really quick brief explanation and a visual idea of our organization. So if you could flick to the next slide, if that's okay, Max. Thank you. So this is more looking in depth in the UK and UK's future and how much we contribute towards towards the UK. So we have over 7,500 employees in the UK, and generating 90,000 additional jobs in the United Kingdom. We have over 500 apprentices, so massive apprenticeship schemes in the UK. And obviously for you guys, that's something you may be interested in. We invest over 200 million in UK research and development each year. So massive amount of money into the UK's future and how we can build as a country. We have over 600 million spent with suppliers. So massive influence and influx into the UK's economy and supporting the UK. And again, it shows you our individual sites there. And I think Jess in a minute will be diving a little bit more into that. And there's a 1.9 billion contribution to the UK GDP. So massive contribution again to the UK economy. And just a little figure at the bottom left there. So £1 spent by the government with us generates £2.40 into the UK economy. So we do a lot with the MOD, as you may know. Previously, as we deal with a lot of governments in general, but every £1 that's spent is generated £2.40 into the UK economy. So again, as I just went over, massive influx into the UK economy through Leonardo. So if you could go next slide, and I think I'll hand over to Jess here.
A really important point. Sorry, Jess, to jump in front of you. Look at how many apprenticeships are offered as well by just one company there. There's a lot of apprenticeships offered, and that will only grow. I'm pretty sure. I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure that will only grow as the future goes on. Apologies. Carry on, Jess.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. So this slide just shows you our presence in the UK. We've got 5 main sites. A couple of the others are a little bit smaller. So the main ones are Edinburgh, Luton, Basildon, Bristol and Yeovil. So obviously in Yeovil, we do the end-to-end helicopter capability. That's design, development, manufacture, support, training, purchasing, the whole lot. Then up in Edinburgh, that's the electronics division. So that's radars, lasers, infrared countermeasures. I'm not going to read it all off the screen, but it's all the sort of techie side of things, I guess. Luton and Lincoln, defensive aid suites, radar warning receivers. So that's the sort of mission equipment, cyber. That's where the cyber technology comes in as well. And again, with Basildon and Bristol, the cyber and information assurance, optronics, defense communications, all the cyber security, communication, technology side of things is covered in the other side. So we are the second largest defence equipment supplier to the UK MOD, as I'm sure you might already be aware, and the third biggest UK defence company in the UK.
So I guess it's now my turn. So right, well, as you've heard from my colleagues here, on the Yeovil site in particular, we do a lot. From, as you can see on site, it's from the design all the way to the flight test and delivery. Like the amount we make a large amount of military products, particularly for the MOD, as well as other countries when it's required. So whether it's the testing, we also do the testing the systems, just making sure they are the best they can be and offering the customers as much whatever they could want. So along with that it's always just making sure that the support is there for the customers, whether that's from our site where we come in, do depth and overhaul, just make sure they're all working right, just do some improvements, or whether it is in different country, you can do it out there, or just try and just making their lives for a customer easier, just providing the service and support for whatever their needs are. So it says here on the slide, 24-hour fleet operations center, always there, always going to try and help 350 MOD personnel based on site. So it's always having that communications, talking to the customers, talking to different people, making sure that people are happy with what's going on. So, but even then, it's just pushing on to the future. It's recently there is particular interest towards unmanned aerial vehicles, or like on the slide here, the RUAS program, the rotary winged unmanned air system, for which I'll speak a little about on the next slide. But there's a lot of push making sure to just innovate and just make sure there's options there for the future and giving customers the products they want and just making countries a lot happier. But anyway, thank you. Yes, so with this innovation and these product designs, we have aircraft, multiple aircraft, or this like tilt-rotor aircraft, AW609 is currently being developed. There's flight tests out in Italy and in Philadelphia. It's got it's looking good for good civil use or SAR use. It's designed for multiple roles and for whatever the customer wants. And then, like mentioned in the previous slide, got the unmanned aerial air vehicles for the AW Hero is definitely a big one, particularly with the Navy. They're always going to love, who doesn't love playing with some drones? It's always great fun. But of course, then simple as there's with the aircraft we make, such as the AW149, it does have a military use as well as a commercial use. So whatever the situation or whatever the customer requires, we can be there to assist in this and just make sure the products meet their criteria, whatever you shall need. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, as you can see from this timeline, the company has a very long and large history. Of course, for the first aircraft flight down in 1907 when it was Augusta, quite a while ago now, over 100 years. But even then, from then, it's been like the Lynx first flight, pushing up into 1971, us building Apaches. Even then, just when the merge of two coming to Augusta Westland, so it was no longer Augusta. This in the early 2000s. There's a lot of movement and a lot of aircraft being built. So even then, there's like, of course, as mentioned, as you can see on the slide, is the construction, the contract for the Skios Sea Kings. Then all 62 orders of the Lynx Wildcats for MOD and other clients. Then, of course, 101, one of the bigger aircraft we make, the biggest one we make on Yeovil site, there's a lot of aircraft being made, and so there's a massive history. There's some people that I work with on site that were there that have worked on things like Wessex or even Sea Kings, which are not really seen too often these days. But even then, so of course, recently, in the last few years, we have become Leonardo and moved our name on to when we're now looking at producing more AW149s and AW189s, for example, just being made out, not just in this country, but out of this country, just supporting the global economy as well as the UK. But anyway, so that is one. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Ben. So this is just a quick slide to show you the breadth of where our customers are. So you can see we've got customers all across the globe. These could be for military aircraft, civil aircraft, search and rescue. Essentially, they're everywhere. And there's also customer support managers in each of these countries. So we not only support them from the UK, but we always have a team of people supporting them in country as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Max.
Welcome.
So now we're going to go into just a kind of bit more in-depth introductions with each other, so you get to know who we are and kind of the experience that we all have enjoyed and had at Leonardo in our journey. So start off with my first placement, as you can see in the year one platform. I was in programs, which is the kind of the function that runs is the wrong word. It manages each well, it's called program, but for you guys, maybe contract's a bit easier. So as Jess just showed on the previous slide, on each different customer, they kind of manage and surround many of the roles that it's really quite difficult to explain actually, but they basically manage the contract in a simple sense. And I was within them. I was within the PMO, within that team there, and that's what they were heavily involved in. And I spoke to a lot of the contract manager or program managers as they're called, but again, for you guys, I'll call it contract managers, as it's easier to understand. And so I gave massive exposure to each program, and understood a lot about each aircraft really, and how the program's going. So they report back to the programs team, and to kind of, so the business are aware of what's going on. So I gained a lot of experience within that, and within that placement, I then moved to configuration management for a month, as they were very busy, and I started to take on a little bit of work from them, and then I gradually moved into a kind of a full placement within each area. So within that, they manage all change requests for the aircraft. So that's whether someone within the business requests a change. That can be from paint to anything mechanical. Is absolutely anything. It's a request. It's the very first stage of something changing that's already been manufactured. So that I was dealing with the vendor change proposals. I was dealing with the internal ones as well. So managing those and helping those push through. I then moved into HR systems, where I some of the big projects I was involved in was we have a platform where, so the best way I describe this platform is where you guys might be similar to a parents' evening or a one-to-one conversation with your college teacher or teacher, so you understand how you're doing in class. Or within a job. It's a similar thing, but it's an online platform. So the employee will then go in and rate themselves on the previous year's objectives and some general ones. I think that's what 1 to 10 they do it. And then after that, the manager goes in, does the same thing, but for the employee. And then after that, they have a one-to-one conversation on if they agree or disagree with each other. And then that moves on to kind of a sign-off phase, and they create new objectives, and that goes on again. So it's a really good way for the employee and manager to have that contact and understanding on where they're going and how they're getting on within the business. So I managed that for a long time with that. That's all support, so that's helping and IT support, and just helping with general queries. I then moved into I was involved in some other projects there, but they're quite confidential, so I can't speak about those, unfortunately. But one of the most interesting things, I guess, we're working in a company, massive company like Leonardo. There's a lot of interesting things you get involved in that are very highly confidential. Moving into sourcing contracting, actually. So what Ben just spoke about with the RUAS program, I'm actually on that program at the moment. So I can't answer any questions or talk about that very much. But it is, all I can say is that it's absolutely amazing, and it's very interesting, and I'm absolutely loving it. But I can't speak too much about it. But within sourcing contracting, I've only been in there 3.5 weeks now. So I haven't been in there for too long. But I'm really enjoying it. So the sourcing contracting kind of side of things, I guess, it is the very first stage of engaging a new project. Really, it's talking to the people that you want to engage in it, and finding the correct solutions and who you want to talk to. I guess I haven't got much experience in it yet, but that's where I am now. Moving in the second year, I'm actually only 9 months into the program, so I haven't completed those last two. Operations and transmissions, but that's where I'm going next. So my program is 2 years long, and after 18 months, I complete my qualification from college, and after that, I go into another placement, which I get to pick, so I can choose whatever area in the business I want to go. Well, that might be something I've already been to get further experience, or somewhere completely different, which is fantastic. And then I think going back to what Max was saying about finding a niche as well, is that without having this, this wide experience, it's a really good opportunity, because you can quite often find those things you never really heard of before, or you didn't know was a role, and you can really understand and find your feet and where you want to be after the apprenticeship. So that's really, really good. So at the end of that, the 18 months as well, you get to pick. You can choose where you want to go. So that then again gives you even more experience or exposure to the wider business. And then just some quick scheme highlights for me is the exposure to suppliers within sourcing and contracting. So massive external exposure and a really, really interesting and fantastic. Networking, the massive amount of networking that you obtain within a program like mine is incredible and invaluable, really. The amount of people that I can now contact for any issues, problems, questions, absolutely anything. I've already built a massive network, and I've only been in the company in 9 months, so it can only get better from there. So that's incredible for the program I'm on. And then the next thing is just kind of links back to that, is the exposure to the whole business and how much experience I get throughout the whole business. I go into all of the big functions, if not all functions, and get as much experience as possible. So even being in sourcing and contracting, if I wanted to move on or want to get some experience somewhere else in the business, or someone else in procurement, sorry, I could speak to my manager and say, I'd actually like a little bit of experience in production procurement, and I could go in that placement or go there for a week if I wanted to get some further experience. So there's even more experience within the experiences. So there's massive opportunity. But I know I'm a bit conscious of time, so I won't go on too much. But there's some pictures there of some of our helicopters and some of the SharePoint that I managed within HR systems. I managed the IT support again, and general queries and access. So I will hand over to the next person, if that's okay. Thank you very much, Max.
More than welcome. That's fantastic, Morgan. And actually, guys, remember what we were talking about at the beginning, and we've done all these job ready sessions, and we've gone through different bits, and now we're starting to look and meet people that are actually involved in jobs and apprenticeships and graduate roles, and seeing what their experiences are. This is valuable. This part is so valuable because you're talking to somebody who's been in the company 9 months. Look at the exposure that they've been given to different areas of the business, and how much responsibility, but also it's not, I don't want to say thrown in the deep end, but actually given a lot of responsibility and exposure to a lot of different things. So can you, Morgan, do you actually feel that you're having a positive effect on the company? Like you are actually doing something like worthwhile, meaningful? It's not like you're just given an apprenticeship and here's a couple of jobs to do. This is actually real stuff. You're having an effect, and you're a real integral part of the team.
No, definitely. I do think the actual title as well doesn't do the role justice, business admin apprentice, because really I'm not doing admin work. I have a responsibility and role, and there is actually, being given the responsibility as an apprentice, and I think the rest of them would agree with me, and other apprentices who currently aren't on the call. The responsibility and exposure that you get is really second to none. You don't find it many other places. So, but yes, definitely, 100%. That is fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want to hear. And hopefully I've set it up so we're going to hear the same from the next three as well. But let's find out. So who's next? Let me just get to the next slide. Jess, welcome back.
Hello. So I don't really know where to start. I think best place to start is probably how I got into the company. So I got my degree in business strategy and management. However, I didn't actually go away to uni to get my degree. I studied my degree through Yeovil College. So my degree's from Gloucestershire Uni, but I studied at Yeovil. So that meant that I had 2 days a week of lectures, and then I could work the rest of the time, because as soon as I left school, I wanted a degree, but I also wanted to work. And that was sort of the best way to marry the two together, I guess. So I joined the company a couple of years ago now. So as you can see, I've had quite a lot of placements in procurement and supply chain. So procurement and supply chain is essentially sourcing the bits that you need to build the aircraft, or it might be not just things that fly on the helicopter. It might be, for example, temporary employees or security on site. So it could be anything basically that you need to buy, and the supply chain that you need to manage alongside that. So I started off in material services. That was a 2-month placement, and that is essentially looking at how you know what you need and when to order it. So for example, some parts that we buy have a lead time of potentially 2 years. So you need to know 2 years in advance that you're going to need to order that part ready for that time. So that's quite a vague description of what the department does, but that was essentially my time in material services, looking at what requirements we have, when we need them, and when we need to prompt procurement to place the orders. Then I went into governance and control. So that's looking at the processes and procedures that we have in procurement. So obviously when you're buying components, parts, big or small, there's export licenses that you need with them. If they're coming from America, there's particular licenses that you need there. So it's looking at all the sort of governance of the procurement process. And actually, just to sort of reiterate what Morgan was saying about the responsibility that you get within the business, you can see the picture, sort of third to the left one. So that is the procurement supply chain induction pack that I created, as you can see, only a few months into the company. So when I joined, the induction pack was literally a Word document, 2-3 pages long, not very helpful, to be totally honest with you. I raised this to my manager and she said, okay, make a better one. So I took that as a project to then develop this induction pack that you can see on screen there. So it was interactive. It had all the sort of key information that you need that people assume when you join the company you already know, but actually it's really good to just sort of have it written down and be able to refer back to it. So there's also things like the managers' names and a picture of what they look like, which is more helpful, you know, even now that, you know, we're working from home and things. I think it's proven quite valuable. And that's also sort of been seen by the other geographies. So Poland, US and Italy have not got an induction pack either. So they've seen this, they really like it, and they're potentially going to take it across geographies and develop it for their own sort of local areas, which, you know, given that I was a grad, only been in the company a couple of months, that was quite a big responsibility to be given straight away. So then I went into customer support and training procurement. So that is essentially facilitating the repairs, any, you know, training simulators or training courses that need to be paid for. That's the sort of idea of that placement. That was slightly extended because, as I'm sure we all remember, COVID kicked off that year in March, and things sort of got shifted to the right, but that was okay because it just meant that I got to spend a bit more time understanding the department and what they do. And again, like Morgan said, networking with as many people as possible, because you just can't network with enough people. Then I went into production procurement. So that is basically buying things that do fly. So anything that flies, production procurement source it. So that could be anything from engines to fuel tanks to rotor blades to bearings to nuts and bolts and washers. It's the whole lot in there. And then on the graduate scheme, we also get a 2-month external placement. So that is where you have the freedom to go and do a placement in anything within the business. So my scheme was procurement supply chain, but I could have done a 2-month external placement in engineering if I wanted to get a better understanding of that, or I could have gone, you know, into programs. I actually decided to go into the VVIP customer support team because procurement is very supplier facing, and I wanted to see what it was like being more customer facing. So not just being told what we need to buy, but hearing from the customers, what do they want, what are they after, what are we not doing? So that was really interesting. Definitely gave me a different sort of perspective. So I could hear everyone in VVIP saying, where's my bit and where's that bit? And from my procurement side, I'm thinking, I know it takes a really long time. So it was sort of like linking those things together that maybe each side aren't aware of. January to February, I was in indirect procurement. So that is procurement of anything that doesn't fly. So that's what I was saying about the, you know, temporary employees. It could be the turnstiles, it could be the catering facilities, stationery, anything that doesn't fly essentially is covered in indirect procurement. Then we go into procurement programs. So that is, like Morgan was saying about the program management. You have the program management, and then you have a special procurement team that manage procurement for the program. Sorry if that's a bit confusing, but essentially if we have a customer who says, I need another bit, procurement programs would facilitate procurement of that bit. They're not a new customer, they're already existing. And then currently I'm also in sourcing and contracting with Morgan. So I can't say too much about what we're doing, but I think Morgan covered it pretty well in that we are essentially going out into the supply base and telling them what we're developing and finding out what they could help with, have they already got technology that we could use? And it's just having those sort of initial discussions, and then, you know, later down the line we'll get into the contracting side of things. So a few of the scheme highlights were exposure to suppliers and the responsibility that you're given. So, you know, you'll join a placement and they'll say, right, I want you to go contact this supplier about XYZ. I want you to raise these repair orders with this supplier, and you are given suppliers to manage, which initially is quite daunting, but you soon sort of settle into it, and it's really nice to have that communication with the supplier and for you to be their point of contact. And also, I think the specialist product knowledge that I've got over the last few years. So when I joined the company, I knew nothing about helicopters. I cannot stress that enough. I knew absolutely zero. I knew that they were pretty cool. Literally, that was it. But now, even just being in a procurement role and not in a technical role, the knowledge I've got of helicopters, I surprised myself, honestly, because I never thought a few years ago that I would know even 3 things about an aircraft. So just the knowledge that you can pick up without even knowing that you're picking it up along the way, because you get so much experience and so much exposure to all these different things, you're just soaking it up all this time without knowing it. And then one day you're like, oh, I actually know quite a lot. And it's a good feeling. So I've already talked about the induction pack, but that was definitely one of the highlights for me. Some external projects as well. So you can see on the right hand side, there's a time capsule. You might be hearing more about this over the next few months, I imagine, but what we are doing is on the Yeovil site, we are burying a time capsule in September this year to be dug up in 100 years' time in September 2121, because how satisfying is that? So essentially, we are going to be putting in old things, current things. We're going to be putting in things that we don't think are going to be around in 100 years. We're obviously going to include things like a COVID mask and hand sanitizer, just to sort of provide a snapshot of where we are in aerospace today. And it's also been a really sort of fun side project to do. So while I've got my sort of day job, you can also get involved in these external projects that can again get you networking with people that you might not come across, and exposure to just different roles, really. SIPS qualification, so the company also will pay for your sort of professional development. So at the moment I'm doing SIPS, which is the Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply. So that's a 3-year course that the company is funding, and then by the end of those 3 years I'll be a chartered procurement professional. And then there's also lots of STEM activities that we get involved with. So we go into schools and we do sort of aircraft building challenges. We do a lot of work with primary schools and sort of getting them thinking about, you know, science, technology, engineering and maths as a career later down the line. And I think I've probably said enough.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Again, more great information to hear, and that's fantastic stuff. It's all good. And again, guys, you're starting to see how you're going to have an effect in more and more areas. Somebody who's been in the company a bit longer, how many more areas they've hit and all the things that are possible. Fantastic. Thanks for that, Jess. I believe it's Ben. Yeah, obviously it's Ben now. It's his name on the screen. Ben, welcome back.
Hello. So yes, so I'm Ben Onman, 4th year craft mechanical apprentice. So my apprenticeship is 4 years long. I will be coming out my time in September, becoming fully qualified and fully skilled. So I joined the company back in 2017 now. Where first year of the apprenticeship, I spent at college doing level 2 in aeronautical engineering. Did that all happy days, and then came on site and started working in what was called CMS, Component Manufacturing Services. So that is making small components, this sheet metal work, this making brackets, or whether it's larger components like footsteps for a Wildcat. It's whatever parts are needed throughout site, particularly if it's needed pretty soon, and if it was getting it through an off-site company or off-site provider, it would take too long. So that's where CMS steps in a bit more to try and alleviate the pressure. So whilst doing in my 2nd and 3rd year, I will also add, I was attending college 1 day a week to do my level 3 in aeronautical engineering. But also, so after CMS, I went down to do structural work on Portuguese and Brazilian lynxes that been brought in to be put into depth, which is just taking them apart, basically inspecting them, seeing how serviceable they are, and if there's any issues we find, we'll fix it up and get it flight worthy, ready to go back to the customer for them to do what they need to do with it. And this time it was one of the aircrafts I worked on had quite a large amount of corrosion, so a lot of time spent with taking out the corrosion, maybe doing some repairs on that. That quite often a bit more thinking outside the box, and a lot of messages going up to the design department to ask of how to repair certain issues, certain components that had a large amount of corrosion on them, which were easily done in the end, but it's always a fun learning experience, that one. So once I was done there, I went up to what we call the build line, and this is where we make the AW101. So with it, the parts come in, it comes in as basically as a shell. So the cockpit, the roof, and the cabin are near enough all separate. They get bolted together, literally. It's not as, by quite a lot less bolts than you expect. It's quite interesting knowing the strength that certain fastenings can actually provide. It's very interesting. But once all that's been done and the tail's been attached, in go the electronics, in go the hydraulics, all the systems start going in. It's really quite interesting. Because one day you could be riveting on a few brackets, the next day you can be installing a hydraulic system. I mean, then further up the line, they're on another aircraft, installing the engines, installing the main gearbox, installing the drive shafts. Every day is different. You walk in, you may have a rough idea what's going on, but it's whatever you get told to do, you know you're going to have fun doing that one. It's always good, very different. So lucky enough, I was able to go to Yeovilton, RNAS Yeovilton, to work on Navy Wildcats, which were coming in for 3-month depth checks, which was once again to strip the aircraft and inspect it. There's a few modifications to be done, so we hopped in and did them. And then it was put the aircraft back together and start doing flight tests, which I definitely believe is the most fun part of it. When you've seen an aircraft come in, you've stripped it to pieces, put it back together, and you get to see it flying. That is definitely something special, I will admit. But that was definitely a very interesting one, learning how different places work compared to site, and then compared to Yeovilton, which was, of course, more of a military base working. So it was very interesting learning the difference and how different places work and picking up a lot of skills on the way. So this is when, of course, all the fun stuff of COVID started kicking off. So, which is always interesting. I got sent home for about 2.5 months. Fun stuff, lots of college work to do, as I'm sure a lot of you had the same. Well, maybe not college, but still lots of schoolwork. But so I came back and I hopped onto the AW101 flight tests. So once again, like mentioned before, when I was at Yeovilton, this was checking the systems and then booting out the door, sending it flying, checking it's all working. Happy days. If there's any faults, drag it back in. We'll inspect or have a look, find out what this problem is, and fix it as soon as we can, and send it back out. But before you know it, it'll be in the customer's hands. It's definitely a good one, a lot of fun. There's sometimes that you get one problem, and other times you get another one. It's always interesting looking at how you go and fix these things, because it's always different. One thing will work for one aircraft, and then for some reason it doesn't on the other one. You have to look at what happened here. It's definitely a fun one. But from that, it's not on the presentation, but I went down to do work on Wildcats in one of the other buildings on site. But it was definitely, that was a lot of modifications, whether that was doing fuel, changing the fuel, or changing some structural components. Oh, yes. So I shall answer that one quite happily. So 3-year apprenticeship, in my opinion, definitely a good way to go. Apprenticeships for me, because I joined at 16 straight out of school. And I stand by that decision. It was the best thing to do. Particularly if you do like that hands-on work, because there's no experience like hands-on both Morgan, Jess, and Olivia can agree with me. There's nothing like being able to do it yourself and getting that experience. So, I mean, yes, there may be some mistakes. We're human. We all make mistakes. It's how you learn from them, and it always makes you a better person. It's like uni is a good option, but for me personally, I have to say that apprenticeships are a good way, particularly if you're hands-on and you like to learn in that sort of fashion. No.
And Ben, sorry, can I just bring you up on something? Did you say that you started this when you were 16?
Yes, I did.
So fantastic. So 16 years old. Look at what Ben's experienced. Left school at 16. And you're not leaving school because you're still in full-time education if you're doing an apprenticeship. And that's why you can go and join an apprenticeship at 16 years old. Look at the exposure to the different areas that he's had. Okay. Look at all the things that he's done. And that's at a young age. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but that is a young age. That's great experience. And his point about the 3-year apprenticeship and it being good for him, it is an individual choice, but if he knows he's not going to succeed at university because it's not his way of learning, then there's no point going down that route. And he'd have to wait till 18 anyway, which means maybe doing 2 years of A levels that he's not comfortable with. So going into doing an apprenticeship, but with your point, Afiola, as well, you can't be in full-time education and do an apprenticeship at the same time. Your apprenticeship is your full-time education. So you couldn't be doing A levels and an apprenticeship, and you can't go to university and also do a degree apprenticeship, okay? If you go and do a degree apprenticeship, you are doing a degree as an apprenticeship and working like Morgan and Ben have described and that stuff. So think about that. But look at the exposure that Ben has had to so many areas, okay? Guys, we've also got about 7-8 minutes left. So start thinking about other questions that you've got for these guys as well. So let's put it in. Sorry to knock you off your stride, Ben. Continue for us.
No worries. So yes, I worked on the Wildcat for a bit there. But jumping off onto where I am currently working on is more structural work on the AW101 or the Merlins for the Navy, which is also very interesting and very challenging at times. It's always a good one. But for my scheme highlights, I have to say is definitely the strip and service of the Wildcat. It's, like I mentioned before, being able to take that apart and then watch it go fly again, that is truly something special. Like, of course, Morgan, Jess, and Olivia, I have done quite a few STEM events, one of which was the Overton Air Day, which absolutely amazing, be able to talk to people, meet new people. It was definitely a very fun and interesting day. Of course, coming back again to the flight testing, it's always great fun. Being able to work on something, sometimes it can be quite seen as near enough a piece of metal, just sat there in a hangar. But when you're able to see it spinning up and actually take off, it comes alive near enough, as close as you can. But so other than my main work on site, like I mentioned, I worked on the Overton Air Day. I worked on the Flying Star Challenge with Jess, as well as conducting a few virtual STEM events such as this. With this, there is a video of the AW101's capabilities, if you do not mind playing that, Max.
I shall do that now. Let's go for it.
Thank you.
I've been waiting to see this all day. Fantastic. What a great video. And just so we know, guys, look, we are approaching almost the hour, but as is often the occasion with these sessions, we can go over, and we are going to go slightly over. So don't worry, we are still going to be here. We're not going to cut at 6 and suddenly disappear. So that was a fantastic video. Olivia, over to you.
Hi, that's great. So yeah, so I just will talk to you a little bit. I won't go through my whole scheme because I want to make sure there's some time to answer some questions from you guys. I want to talk a bit about my scheme highlights mostly. One of my first placements in my scheme. So I'm a business graduate, which means I studied a non-STEM based degree at university, and I joined the company in 2019 after graduating in the summer of 2019. One of my highlights was working on the bid for the Canadian business. So we are bidding currently still for a new batch of helicopters with the Canadian government, and it's it's really exciting and challenging working with these big government organizations, because there's a lot of elements that you take into consideration that I would never have been aware of before. So that was a really good placement for me. I learned a lot. I was given a lot of responsibility. I had a huge amount of development opportunity, and I also got to go out to Canada and work with the Canadian government directly for about a month, which was really cool. Very, very cold. I went in January. It was -28. Really cold, but so worth it. It was really cool. The other one I've got there is ownership and responsibility, and I think that keeps coming up again and again, but I think as a graduate, it's my responsibility to show the people I work for what I'm capable of doing and what I'm capable of delivering for them. And the more I show up and the more I commit to and deliver, the more more ownership and responsibility they're willing to give me. And as I've gone through the scheme and I've showed myself to be capable and willing to be to take on more, they've always been willing to give me more. And I think thirdly, delivering training was a huge one for me. So after I'd been in the company for about 6 months, maybe even less, I'd learned from scratch how to use a software called Doors, which you don't need to know about, it's really boring, but really technical software that engineers use for requirements management. And I learned how to use it, and not only did I do that, but I developed a whole new process for the business to use, and then developed a training and delivered that training to about 150 people, from top level senior management down to other graduates on the scheme like myself. So that was a huge opportunity for me, and really showed me that I was capable of much more than I knew, because I've always viewed myself as a very sort of non-technical kind of person, and to be sort of given the opportunity to learn a new skill and then share that with other people was really really cool. And outside of the scheme, I do a lot as well. So I think one of the best things about the training schemes that Leonardo provides is that your time is not solely dedicated to your day job. So there is a lot of STEM activities and other opportunities that come up that you can, if you can manage your time properly, you can fold as much as you want into your scheme, as long as you still maintain your commitment to your main role. And so with that, I do, I'm the vice chair for the Pride Network, which is a network for LGBT people within Leonardo UK, and also I work with the Royal Aeronautical Society, running lots of different kinds of events, and that's a lot of the pictures that you can see on the right side of the screen. Yeah, so and also one of the opportunities that's come my way through these through this extra stuff is to bring my own event to life, which is Aero Women 21, which will be taking place in about 3 weeks.
Fantastic. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
So yeah, this is brilliant. And again, look guys, the whole point in this session was to see exactly this, exactly what these people are getting involved in from an early stage, from a young age when joining a company. Because we talk about degree apprenticeships and graduate roles, and you're probably thinking, well, actually, how much responsibility do you get? What do you actually get to do? We're seeing this. We've seen 4 different areas, really, 4 different people doing 4 different things and getting so involved in just part of the fabric of the business, thrown straight in. There's no holding people back just because they're at the beginning or whatever. It is really about helping them learn and go forward. So that's fantastic, and that's absolutely brilliant, and that's great to see. Let's think about some of the questions that we've got. What questions have we got here for people? I can see one of them that we've got already is about what grades need to be achieved in GCSE, but I suppose that's going to be dependent on which kind of role you might be going for or apprenticeship you might be going for. And Emily, I can see you've written in the box. Who would it be that would be answering that question?
That'll be me.
Go for it.
Do a brief introduction.
Go for it, Emily.
So I'm the trainee resourcing officer for Leonardo Helicopters. So I'm responsible for the recruitment of apprentices, graduates, and industrial placement students into the business. So I'm involved in the whole of the marketing and getting the word out there about our vacancies, then involved in our assessment centres, so making sure we have enough interviewers and the right interview materials for the interviews. And then I'm part of the onboarding process for all our new trainee starters. So I'm the point of contact in the business up until the start date for trainees. So that's a brief overview of what I do. In terms of the question around grades, it depends on the apprenticeship or grad scheme that you would be looking to go into. So in terms of the apprenticeships, if you're looking at a hands-on based apprenticeship, so a craft apprenticeship, similar to what Ben has already explained in his presentation, you are looking at 4 GCSEs, levels 4 to 9 or A to C on the old grading system. And that needs to include English, maths, science, and any 4th based subjects. That could be history, PE, French, any of those subjects. If you were looking to do a technical apprenticeship, which is more design-based, analytical, a lot of testing involved, it's desk-based as well. So you would be in that office environment. We would be looking for a B or above in maths or a level 5 to 9 in maths. English and science, we would be looking for a C or above, so levels 4 to 9, and any 2 other subjects. So we would need those 5 GCSEs for a technical apprentice. We also offer a degree apprenticeship. So if you're someone that would be looking to get a degree, but you don't necessarily want to go to university, you can actually get a degree through an apprenticeship. Now that's just for engineering routes. And what you would need to get in terms of grades for a degree apprenticeship, you would have to do 3 A-levels. One of your A-levels would need to be maths. And the second A-level would need to be from a STEM-based subject. So that's science, technology, engineering, maths again, and any 3rd subjects. That could be psychology, history, could be anything. We're looking at 96 UCAS points altogether. If you didn't want to do A-levels and you were thinking of maybe going to college to do a BTEC, up to a BTEC level 3 in engineering, we also accept those students onto the degree apprenticeship program as well. So that's the engineering apprenticeships and the grades. As you've heard from Morgan, we do business apprenticeships, and what you would need for a business apprenticeship is a C or above in maths and English, and that is all. So level 4 to 9 on the new system in English and maths. In terms of the graduate scheme, so like Olivia and Jessica, they went to university, and we would be looking for a 2-1 or above in terms of grades there, and you would have to be studying something applicable at university to the route that you've applied for. And with the graduate schemes as well, both Jessica and Olivia are from a business bias, but we actually have an engineering graduate scheme as well. So you could be interested in engineering, you could be interested in business. Leonardo as a whole could offer you so many different opportunities for either of those routes. And hopefully from the presentation today, you've had a little flavour of what can be offered. And I think the key thing from this presentation is to see that you're getting work experience. If you're an apprentice, you're getting qualifications, but you're actually getting loads of other skills from extracurricular activities and group projects that you can get involved in as well. And that makes it a nice transition from school or college into the working world of life, because you've still got that sort of student vibe, but you are actually in the working environment. So I'm aware of time, so I'm going to stop there, but hopefully that's answered the question on grades.
I think you have definitely answered the question on grades, but also you've opened up a lot of other questions and answered a lot of other information. You can see there that there's so many opportunities available. We sort of talked at the beginning, 500 apprenticeships, then you kind of think, well, what does that mean? But you can see there's different areas. And what I want the students to really understand is that there's so many different areas that you can look at and go into, and it's being thought about, and it's being looked at and expanded, and the experience is being given. And an apprenticeship, especially even a degree apprenticeship, not especially, but a degree apprenticeship as well as an apprenticeship, is such a valuable thing. Ben said it earlier, he knows that university is not for him. He wanted something more hands-on, hence why he's gone on to do his apprenticeship. And look at the exposure that he's had, look at the things that he's learned, look at how much enthusiasm, I would say. I was going to say excitement, but I suppose it is, when he talked about that flight test, when the helicopters are sent back out and flown to make sure that they work once you've worked on them. To do that at such a young age is huge, and it's massive opportunity. And this is why we exist, to show these to you. And that's why we bring these employers over, to make sure you see these opportunities. Now, Emily, we have got a bit of another question as well, and it's about how would the application process work? Again, is that going to be different according to the type of apprenticeship or the type of role? How does the application process work?
So in terms of recruitment for this year, we filled all our vacancies, and I thought I'd go through numbers very quickly. So just in Yeovil, at our helicopters division, we've recruited 50 trainees for this year's intake. So that's 33 apprentices. We've taken on 15 graduates, and we have 2 industrial placement students. And that is usually the numbers that we work with year on year. So what we will be looking to do, and it's not confirmed yet, but when we go live with our applications again, and it's at the end of September, start of October, so we kind of work in a sort of academic year, our cycle. Our applications will go live then, and that's both for apprentices and graduates. You would submit an application. We do an initial sift of the application, and that would look at your qualifications and either predicted grades or grades that you already have that I've just run through. And we also, because of some of our security with the company, we look at 5 years UK residency or more. So that would be looked at the initial sift. If you pass that initial sift, then you will take part in an on-demand video and gaming, which is a kind of test of your skills. And the on-demand video will be asking you questions. Instead of typing up an application form, it's a video. So you will be asked a question and you have to answer that question via video. So the gaming and the on-demand videos will be looked at and scored. And that's on a platform called Highview that we use at the moment. We will then look at the scoring and then determine who would then go on to the next stage of the recruitment process, which would look at the CVs that would be submitted. So we would look at we would mark the CVs as well. And then once we've had a look at the grades from the on-demand videos and the gaming and the CV, we will then determine who will then go through to interview. But it's quite a long process, because if you're going on for a graduate opportunity, you won't be interviewed until around February. So you could submit an application in September, but you won't, if you come through the whole process, you won't be interviewed till February. And with apprentices, our interviews go ahead in March. And if you pass the apprentice interviews, you would then look to start in the company in August. So again, you could apply in September, but you wouldn't be joining us until August the following year. And with the graduates as well, you would say, again, you could apply in September, but you actually wouldn't start with us till the following September. So as I said, it is in like an academic cycle, and those are the steps that you'd need to take. Everything's online, so we don't take paper CVs or anything. It's all through our website. And I think before this session, we've sent the link through to our People and Careers site. And I didn't know, Max, whether you'd be able to forward that on to attendees from today, but it's just to note that we have closed applications for this year's intake, but they will go live again at the end of September, start of October.
Absolutely. What we do at the end of this session, in the next day, we will send out the recording of this session, and we'll send out those links as well and all the relevant information to everybody that attended and bought a ticket to attend, so they don't lose out on those opportunities. But listen to what Emily said as well. I have just put a link in the chat box to a quick survey about how you found the session and how we can help you further, and if you want any more information as well, and we can send that through once we send out the emails with the recordings. Do we have any other questions? I am conscious that it is 6:12, and our beautiful panelists are probably wanting to get away and have their dinner. I'm sure they've all had a long day at work as well. But let's have a look. If we haven't got any other questions, we had some very good questions, by the way. That was great. I want to say thank you to all of the panelists for coming along this evening and sharing their experiences and their stories. It's really valuable for you guys to do this and share it, because it shows your experiences, and you're all from different sectors and have had so much experience and hands-on, and it really just shows and promotes the idea that for young people, you have still got great opportunities in front of you, and that you should go ahead. So thank you so much for giving up your time, guys. Really, really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I love the videos, by the way. I was desperate to see those. If we haven't got any other questions, look out for the recording that's coming. If you haven't done already, scan the QR code, join the program, and you'll get more information about other sessions that we're going to be doing in the future. But I just want to say thank you to Emily as well for coming along and for giving that information at the end. Really, really appreciate it. And guys, I'm going to say I can see there's no more questions. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody. I am going to stop the recording as well now, so we can all